It's basically flat year to date. The price of Bitcoin is flat year to date, and still they're able to accumulate at a pace that is well above average. Well, I mean, what we're seeing week over week, right? Very aggressive common stock ATM, and the success of STRC starting to show. So very interesting momentum, and I think if they're able to hold this pace throughout the year, they will end up with a crazy amount of Bitcoin unless price starts to rally significantly soon here.
We're looking at an average pace of 57,700 Bitcoin per month, which makes an average pace of 692,200 Bitcoin per year. And that puts them right now, based on this calculation, well above 1 million Bitcoin by the end of 2026.
How many chairs are you sitting on right now?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to One Chair. None of what you will hear is financial advice, and this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. So today we have breaking news on strategy side with a record buy of Bitcoin last week. We were expecting a big buy, but this is nonetheless quite impressive. So let me give you the numbers here. They acquired 22,300 Bitcoin last week. They financed it by issuing common stock, 1.8 billion worth of common stock, and also around 300 million of STRC. Yeah, this was expected to see a big buy from STRC because the stock was trading around 100 or over 100 for most of the days of last week. And what's really also impressive about STRC, as we talked about already at the end of last week, is that after the ex-dividend date on Thursday, the stock basically stayed or went quickly under 100, but came right back up on the same day and closed Friday at 100 as well. And what's even more impressive is today, as we're recording on Tuesday, market open, Bitcoin is down quite significantly over the weekend. MSTR is trading at -7%, but even with this crash in Bitcoin and MSTR, we see STRC still at 100. So there really is stabilization around this product, and it shows that there's a lot of demand for this one.
Yeah, now Strategy issued about almost 300 million of STRC. That's 3 times more than the week before that. I don't know if people start realizing the numbers because the IPO was at 2.8 billion worth of STRC last year. So I think it's just a matter of time until we start seeing the 1 billion issuances in 1 week, and potentially see a double or even a tripling of STRC over this year, probably even more, to be honest, at this pace. So the numbers are quite staggering in my opinion. And looking at how it's trading, looks like this there's actually a lot of demand for STRC, especially when you see the price action on Bitcoin and MSTR, and STRC is the only instrument that's still holding its peg. So really, really impressive.
Yeah, and if you compare to the last time we had the same types of headwinds for STRC, was in November. We had the ex-dividend date and a crash in Bitcoin around the same time. And there we went from 100 to 91 quite quickly within a few days. And now STRC again not moving away from the 100 given the same headwinds as we've seen in November. So that's really bullish for this instrument, and will probably allow Strategy to have another strong week this week with issuance of additional STRC and buying Bitcoin at a depressed price of almost 90K now. And at the same time, we're also seeing it swap over into other companies and products, because with STRC at 100, we're also seeing SATA reaching the 100 at the end of last week, and also holding the 100. Given even though the market is again not very favorable today at the open, so we're also seeing similar products to STRC from other companies quite strong. this will also allow Strive to continue to issue shares and stack more Bitcoin. And Metaplanet will come out with a similar product soon, hopefully. And will be interesting to see when all three of those operate at the same time, how much Bitcoin can be taken off the market here.
There's going to be a lot of reflexivity on these instruments. And we haven't heard from Strive yet how much they bought last week through SETA, but I expect that they should be coming soon with some announcement, considering that it was trading for quite some time over around the $100 peg as well. Yeah, so speaking about STRC, so we also mentioned it in the last episode, or we introduced it, that strategy has now a new flywheel, which is actually more powerful than the old one. And maybe it's worth going a bit deeper into this, because it's quite interesting to have a look at the comparison compared to the old one. So here we show a quick table with high-level overview of the differences from the old flywheel to the new one. The old flywheel was done with the convertible bonds, and the new one now is with the perpetual preferred shares, specifically STRC. One thing that we notice is that the addressable market with the convertible bond was under 1 trillion. And now for STRC, you have over 400 trillion. And that obviously changes completely the prospects for this flywheel, because the liquidity is impacted. So you have a low liquidity on the convertible bonds. It was mostly institutionals that were buying this. Here you have STRC, which is now a traded security on the NASDAQ. And you have retail and institutionals that are able to buy this. And not only that, but we've seen also innovation come from different players. I'm thinking here, for example, Buck token, where they're basically using STRC as collateral. Another interesting part with STRC is that the amplification compared to the convertible bonds is much higher. So before, with the convertible bonds, when MSTR was bringing it to the markets, there was a discount basically of about 40 to 50% due to the convertibility of the debt. Here, STRC is a perpetual preferred share, meaning that it remains in the balance sheet, not exactly as debt, but somewhere in between debt and equity. The issuance makes it so much more accretive than the old convertible bonds. And last piece, which is interesting with STRC, is that now there is a demand stabilization mechanism. And what we mean by that is that before, when the price of Bitcoin would go down, the demand for the debt and for the common would also go down, but MSTR wasn't able to do anything. Now, if the price of Bitcoin goes down and STRC starts losing its peg, then MSTR is able to increase the dividend rate. And that should allow for, again, having a higher demand on STRC, allowing the flywheel to pick up again. So all of this is making the flywheel so much more stronger than before. And maybe I stop there. And Quentin, maybe you want to add something to this.
Yeah, I mean, the last point you described, it's exactly what we're seeing right now, right? With Bitcoin and MSTR being weak, but STRC holding its peg. And this is exactly what you're describing, that they're able to issue this instrument and stabilize it at 100, issue more of it and buy more Bitcoin. And this is kind of putting a floor on Bitcoin and should in the long run also strengthen strategy, because again, it's more accretive to issue STRC, because it's even though it's seen as debt on the balance sheet, it's a debt that doesn't have to be paid back, right? So the actual liability that MSTR has is the 11% dividend payments per year that they need to give out, and as long as Bitcoin has a CAGR above this rate, it is very accretive to the common shareholder. And then looking at the last piece of this table here on the issuance efficiency, right? This is something we've talked about here in the last few weeks as well, is that with the old flywheel, there was not really a lot of interest for MSTR to issue shares at 1 MNAV or close to book value, because it was not accretive to the common shareholder. And those convertible bonds, they were limited in the amount that they could issue, right? There was not a huge demand for them. But now with STRC, it makes sense for Strategy to issue shares at book value, because it allows them to at the same time issue more STRC. And STRC, there's a huge demand for it, as we're seeing, and it's very accretive. So in combination, the trade of issuing at book value, which in itself is not accretive, but in combination with STRC issuances, it is, right? So the more common share they issue, the more STRC they can issue. And that's what also makes this Flywheel 2.0 a lot more interesting.
So now that we summarized all the improvement points on this new Flywheel, which is incredibly bullish in my opinion for Strategy, we can also have a look at the forecast or the current paces that Strategy is currently accumulating Bitcoin. And we've shown in the past the different accumulation paces that we modeled using the data from strategy.com. And here we now added the current pace from January 26. We forecasted based on that the average per month and also the average per year. And when you start looking at the numbers, you see that they have quite an accelerated pace. And again, super bullish for Strategy right now.
Yeah, and looking at the market environment, it's not like we're in an exponential growth phase of Bitcoin like the end of 2024, when they were able to issue 50,000 Bitcoins, or when they were able to purchase 50,000 Bitcoins a week, right? It's we're in a slight uptrend since the beginning of the year. But it's nothing crazy, right? We opened the year at 88,000, and today we're at 90,000. So it's basically flat year to date. The price of Bitcoin is flat year to date, and still they're able to accumulate at a pace that is well above average. Well, I mean, what we're seeing week over week, right? Very aggressive common stock ATM, and the success of STRC starting to show as well. So very interesting momentum, and I think if they're able to hold this pace throughout the year, they will end up with a crazy amount of Bitcoin, unless price starts to rally significantly soon here.
We're looking at an average pace of 57,700 Bitcoin per month, which makes an average pace of 692,200 Bitcoin per year. And that puts them right now, based on this calculation, well above 1 million Bitcoin by the end of 2026. And as you mentioned, so far we've seen no price appreciation on Bitcoin. So it's basically flat. I mean, we've seen obviously the volatility, and that's why they're able to accumulate so much based on this volatility. But even if the price of Bitcoin remains flat, they should be able to keep accumulating more or less at these levels, assuming that the volatility stays as it has been over the month of January. I guess we're gonna see much higher prices on Strategy eventually.
Yeah, I mean, with their operations so far this year at prices of Bitcoin quite depressed, especially if you compare them to gold or silver or even the Nasdaq, right? Bitcoin has been lagging behind all of 2025, and if there's a reversal coming, it will have been a very good time for Strategy to start those aggressive buys here early in the year. Okay, I think that's all we had today. Yves, do you have any final thoughts?
We've been reflecting quite a lot about this new Flywheel, and I think just the realization of how much they've improved their Flywheel over the last year with the new preferreds, and especially with STRC. I think this is going to be very interesting to see how all of this progresses and whether they can actually continue improving upon that. So looking forward to see what strategy comes up next to keep pushing the boundaries of the new financial era with Bitcoin. What about you?
Not much to add. I think for me, it will be really interesting to see if we really start seeing a Bitcoin rally here. what's going to happen with common stock issuances, with STRC, and all of the other preferreds that are lagging a bit behind now, also over the last year. What happens when everything starts to come together? And I think we'll find out. We might find out soon enough. Right now, markets under pressure with tariff discussions again, but usually those resolve within a few weeks. So let's see what happens here.
Thanks for listening, and see you on the next one.
Bye bye, everybody. See you next time.
How many chairs are you sitting on right now?